I'm Tom.
I'm Randy.
I'm Randy, and so you're probably wondering, what are our credentials for actually showing you the update on the bridge? Well, he's a twice over engineer, and now he's retired, so currently he's a recovering engineer, and he's about 2.5 years into that process. My credentials are, this is my camera. All right, Randy, since our last video, a lot has changed. We've got a floor, there's structure going up. Take me on the tour, would you?
I'll be happy to, Tom. As you maybe recall from the last week's video, we had demolished everything and we were looking at dirt from the mouth of the lake all the way to the spillway. And if you take a pan there, Tom, looks like we got ourselves a concrete floor in, and so that's the case. We've poured last Thursday the floor, and we poured all the foundations for all of the walls. That's the side walls, the kick walls, and the bridge wall. So Tom, last week we had the rebar stuck up out of the cutoff wall. Remember, that's a 32-foot, 1 foot wide by 6 foot deep wall that we poured vertically down here. We've laid over all the rebar and tied the rebar into the floor, and all of that has been covered in concrete. This now has a 1% slope from the front to the back, and poured and ready to go. So the next obvious thing to take care of are the side walls and the kick walls. So we got to put a wall up on the outside. We're forming, and we got to put a wall up on the inside. Let's call this the exterior wall, the back wall, and we are in the process of giving the back wall forms to hold the concrete, and then they'll put a front wall in front of this guy. It'll sit over here like this. Then we've got some more rebar to go in here, but this will become the actual concrete wall. So we are working on the install of the exterior walls. Monday we'll finish that, and then we'll come in and install the interior walls. Okay, one of the things that you might notice about this opening that goes to the lake is the girth, the width of the opening.
It's a lot wider, isn't it?
It's a lot wider. If you recall, the side walls came in such that we only had a pretty narrow opening here. What this will do is this will allow a bigger mouth to accept more water sooner from the lake, such that I anticipate, and the engineers anticipating, that we'll see less lake level fluctuation because we'll get more water out sooner.
So in layman's terms, that means people's docks shouldn't flood over quite as easily as before.
Correct. We should stay better caught up with the elevation of the lake. As it comes up, it ought to spill out more quickly.
Awesome.
Okay, so we talked about a little bit earlier, you can kind of get a visual that these are the side walls, but remember how they were falling in before, and we actually put the steel horizontally on the side walls to keep the walls from falling in. We're doing that a little differently this time. We got what are called kick walls, and so this wall is going to be poured. This will be the side wall, but as you look back here, there's a 6-foot kick wall that'll be 3 feet tall at the front, 2 feet tall at the rear, with a wide foundation back here. And all of this, when it's said and done, will get backfilled, and you'll never see these kick walls, but these are with rebar tied to the foundation and tied to the front wall, and they will provide what's called an anti-rotating moment. They'll hold the wall back, and we won't have any structure across the top to keep the walls from coming in. But you'll never see that once it's all backfilled and finished.
I think that's pretty cool that they're there. They're saving your walls, but you don't see them, so it looks like an even more clean, like, bridge installation.
It will be clean, but Tom will show you with the overhead view how we have actually 5 kick walls on each side before the bridge, and there's even a kick wall after the bridge. You'll be able to see that in the overhead views. So what's kind of interesting about this whole phenomenon is, how do we keep the water from getting past this fabulous structure? And one of the things that I saw that the engineer has done, you can't hardly see it, but all of the forming that happened from this kick wall to the lake is formed in wood, and we will backfill the back of this with clay. Now, mind you that the clay is the actual water stop, so that the lake cannot get around this first or second kick wall. After this first kick, or the second kick wall, we formed everything with a pretty common substance called formadrain, And this stuff goes in the ground and it forms, and we fill it full of concrete. It becomes the foundation. Tom, if you take a look back in here, you can see the foundation and the form of drain around it. So you can see the form of drain around this. It's on the outside and it's on the inside foundation. And if you look at that first kick wall, there's no form of drain. So the deal is, we'll backfill with clay the first area, and that'll be the way that we'll stop the water from coming from the lake to the first area. Any water that we see from here will get carried all the way to the end via this form of drain. Just as a heads up, there are slits in the form of drain that allow moisture to go in, and we'll actually, this all has a 1% drop. All the flow will be in that direction, and then we'll actually have a drain pipe that'll hook into this and flow any water underneath of the concrete floor back to the back of the spillway.
Almost like a basement dewatering system.
It's exactly what it is. This is the same thing that we installed at my house when we put the foundation in at my house. So maybe, Tom, it'll be obvious about the density of the reinforcing bar in the sidewalls here. This is already installed. There will be the interior wall. In fact, these are tie bars that will hold the interior wall to the exterior wall, and we'll pour the concrete in between there and break these all off. It's maybe of interest to note that the density of the reinforcing bar goes up pretty significantly when we get into the wall of the bridge. So I'm kind of standing under the bridge, but you can certainly tell that we got 2 layers thick. It's tied. It's a lot more dense. We'll pour this wall. This will be the interior wall, as will that side for the bridge. So we'll pour this all the way up to this level, and then the final pour will be the top of the bridge.
So Randy, I'm used to working with, like, you know, a 4/8 inch rebar. Some of these look bigger.
Some of them are bigger, and it's called out in the drawings. This is a number 5 rebar. The rebar size is born out of a number of 8s. So this is a 1/2 inch rebar. It's a number 4, so 4/8 is a 1/2 inch. This rebar that comes across the top, that looks like a number 5 rebar. That's 5/8. We've got some rebar in the floor of the bridge here, because this is a 14.5 inch foundation down here. We got some number 7 rebar down there. It's 7/8 inches thick.
Okay, Randy, this cable running across the bridge doesn't look like the phone company's probably going to put that in the ground, does it?
It doesn't look like they're going to put it in the ground. I would say we'll end up marrying this to the side of the bridge like it was before. Looks like there may have been a repair in the history of this thing. It's got this bulge in here with about 8,000 feet of black tape on it. That's usually an indication of a repair somewhere along the way.
Now I gotta correct you on this, because we mentioned this in the last video.
Okay.
And it lit up the internet.
Oh, it did.
Right. So everybody here knows that this is our telephone cable, but more importantly, it's our internet line.
Yes, it is.
And I found out that this bulge right here, it's not a repair. It's actually Monty Morris's jokes clogging up the internet.
I agree with that.
So they haven't gotten out to the real internet yet, and Monty's
poor jokes,
overwhelming amount of poor jokes, is clogging the internet.
I see. So that's literally just a bulge in the wire.
Right. So we expect that to go down as Monty stops posting.
Correct.
Okay.
Nice. I like that.
I thought of that when I was driving. I'm like, I gotta burn Monty a little bit. I love burning Monty. He's so good at it. Okay, so Randy, this is the end of the new spillway.
It is.
And it meets the beginning of the old spillway. What's the transition?
Okay, so good question, Tom. Now this was cut off clean with a saw all the way down through the concrete, and then subsequently we bored into the existing concrete, and we installed reinforcing bar into the existing concrete and tied it into the floor of the new concrete. And before, however, we actually poured the concrete around each reinforcing bar. There is a special membrane that is installed. I helped install it, and it comes around each piece of rebar and goes to the next piece of rebar and wraps around. And that stuff, it absorbs moisture, because we will get some moisture in there, but the intent is that it will absorb it and fill the gap and cause this to be sealed from one side to the other. So while it only looks like we spilled over the concrete, there's actually a sealant in there that went from stem to stern all the way across to seal this in once it gets moisture on it.
One of the things I like about this project the most is, obviously the last bridge was built almost 60 years ago.
Correct.
But just the technology and construction has advanced so much that you have little things like this and the sealer and the basement dewatering along the edge and all that. So all those little things together will just prolong the life of this
Absolutely.
next bridge.
And we didn't take a lot of rebar out of here from the 1960 install, but as you can see, there's a handsome amount of rebar going back in.
Cool. And so when's the next pour? Is it Tuesday?
Okay, so Tuesday we're scheduled, after we get the exterior and the interior forms up, we anticipate pouring all of the walls, the side walls, the kick walls, and the bridge walls all the way to the top on Tuesday.
Once again, Randy, appreciate the update. Can't thank you enough.
Pleasure. Thanks, Tom, for doing the videos.